guys, welcome back to another one of my Cass and Yep videos. I'm still working on the name. I think I'm settling on Cass and Yep, but some days I might do builds, so I'm not sure what's gonna happen then. But since my default is to Cass, that's what we're calling this series, at least for now. Anyways, I did arrive today knowing what Sims I made because I just made them on stream before I came over. So today on this side of the screen, you will see two Sims being made. The concept was cat and dog lesbians. I started with the dog and then the cat. Usually when I don't know what to do for Sims, like when I'm just doing like an open-ended thing, right? What I do is I will just randomize. So I'll randomize the general look, like the general Sim, and then I'll randomize every single one of their features from their body shape to their eyebrows, their eyes, their presets, all of their presets. I'll click the dice 3 times each and then I'll work off whatever that Sim ends up being. So it's kind of like a randomized Sim challenge almost, just without the actual rules. I actually ended up really liking how this cat and dog couple ended up looking. For today's Yep topic, I came kind of without a plan. I had a general idea that I wanted to share the entirety of my Bali love story, but I kind of am not in the mood for a Bali love story right now because I'm in my luteal phase of my period and I'm feeling a little bit more like moody and spicy and a little bit darker. So I thought instead I could talk about something that's a little bit less fluffy and a little bit less sweet. It's something that I've always wanted to really talk about, but I've never really gotten around to really talk about it. So first of all, I don't know if I know how to talk about it well, but I'm gonna try anyways. And then second of all, it's a little heavy. It's not heavy per se, but it's definitely more wisdom loaded, I guess. Like it's a lot of the lessons I've learned along the way. So basically I'm gonna be talking about my previous relationship, not in a oh he did me wrong kind of way, but in a what I've learned from my process of getting out and getting over and healing from that relationship. In a sense, it's a very big topic to really talk about, and I haven't actually figured out how to do it yet. I still struggle with talking to my friends about it sometimes, but it's been something that was a very big topic of my life for a while. The fact that I had to go through the whole process of recognizing that I was in a situation that kept me stuck and then finding the courage somehow to get out of it. It was a very difficult situation. But before I even continue with like talking about the story without telling you the story, let me tell you the story. It's not really a story. Yeah, it's not a story. It's more about like this is so hard. Why did I give myself such a hard topic to talk about and then I have no notes? Yeah, see, that's why it's difficult. But it's a yapping sesh, right? I can do whatever I want. So this is how I usually talk, guys. Just figure things out and we go in circles for a little bit. Right. We need to start from some background. Oh my god. Please note that this is not me trashing my ex at all. Like I want to make sure that that's very clear. Oh, this is so hard. I just feel like I have to get this off my chest. Like I feel like this is going to help so many people, like how leaving that relationship helped me. And I know how difficult it was for me to leave that relationship, that me talking about me leaving my previous relationship is probably going to help someone out there, which is why I want to talk about this. But it's so hard to talk about it because it requires me to peel back the curtains a little bit so that you can see like what was happening behind the scenes, I guess, in a sense. And it's kind of, I feel kind of bad. Brief background of the situation was I was in my previous relationship for 5 years. It was like 5 years and about 3 months before I initiated the breakup. So we had a good 5 years. My ex was my university course mate. We went to school together and that's where we met, and a romance budded after being friends after being like classmates, I guess, not really friends but classmates for a while, and then one thing led to another, and then somehow or rather we were 5 years into the relationship and we had applied for a house here in Singapore. If you are serious and you're planning to get married, there is an option to sign up for a housing scheme like with the government so that you can get subsidies and you can kind of like basically order like a flat that the government will build for you, and it takes quite a few years to go from application to receiving the keys. It's called BTO, or built to order, over here in Singapore, so Singaporeans will know and the non-Singaporeans just know that it's a thing that we do, and you can only do it with like your fiance/husband as far as like new couples are concerned. There are like a few other ways to do it, but I don't really know much about it. To be honest, I didn't really know much about it. So we had that done, so that was kind of like a very binding thing because like there was money involved, there was like a house coming and that kind of stuff. Like we were actually serious. Like there was no ring on my finger or anything, like no proposals were done. It was no such talk. But we knew that it was going to happen within the time frame between then and getting the house, because you have to be at least registered as married in order to get the keys to the house. So it was serious. It was really serious. On paper, on everything, it looked pretty good. We were growing together. We were going through our days together. We had a routine down. Everyone thought that there was nothing wrong. We thought there was nothing wrong. We never fought. We were always very friendly, very nice, and we enjoyed our time together. We meet each other regularly all the time and all that. Like, it was really like no one saw this coming at all. But it turned out that I was kind of giving up on life a little bit. Like, I was struggling mentally and I was not doing very well. I've always thought that it was just stress, because I do content creation for a living. So it's like a stressful thing, especially when you're trying to eventually fund a house and a wedding and a life together with someone and stuff like that. Like, it was very, very stressful, and I always thought that I had to do better. And I started worrying a lot about money, and then I started making decisions because of money and stuff like that. I always thought that it was just like a purely professional problem. So throughout the last 5 years, I've read a lot of self-help books. I've done a lot of, like, I guess, healing in a sense. I've done a lot of like personal self-improvement things. I've changed my mindset, done all of the routine things. Some stuck, some didn't stick. I can definitely build on those things in a future video. Personal development and spirituality are very big topics in my life. Like, I really, really do believe in them. So like, I can talk a lot about them. But long story short, I did a lot of that. I fixed a lot of things. I fixed I recognized all of my flaws and everything. I fixed every single portion of my life, but I always conveniently ignored the fact that I never looked at my relationship, because in my opinion, like, my relationship was perfect. There was nothing to fix. Like, we never fought, and my ex gave me no issues whatsoever. Like, why would I think that there's anything wrong with that relationship, right? So I never really looked at it. Never really wanted to look at it. So I did not look at it. But I knew in the back of my mind that I never looked at it, if that makes sense. But I knew it in such a subconscious way, or like semi-conscious way, that I never allowed myself to think too much about it. Keeping that in mind, I reached a point towards the end of the relationship last year where I just realized that I can't ignore that anymore. So I opened the can of worms. I opened Pandora's box, and then I looked at the relationship, because I really wanted to make my career work. I really wanted to make life work for me, because I felt so stuck. I looked back and I realized that I was all sorts of stuck from maybe like 2 years into the relationship. Like, I ground to a halt. There was no progression. I was doing less and less. I used to have so many ideas when it came to like content and stuff, whether it be for like YouTube or like for streams. But then after a while, I was sporadic at best at my inspiration and my creativity, and also my consistency at actually showing up for like my videos and my streams. But I never really thought that it had anything to do with the relationship, but it turned out that it had everything to do with the relationship, because I fixed everything else, right? And then the only thing I didn't look at was my relationship. So I looked at it, and then I realized that there were a lot of things in our relationship that very subtly affected the way I approached things and I navigated life, and that kind of kept me stuck and kept me limited. And none of those things were deliberately done by my ex. So it was all things that happened because I never gave the idea that we might not have been compatible from the start a good look, for one. And then also, I guess as we grew up as people, because I did mention that we met in university, so we were essentially kids when we met. So like, yeah, you can feel like an adult when you're in uni, but at the end of the day, if you were like just coming out into the working world, you were a kid. We were kids. We knew nothing coming out. So we came out and we grew into our own respective human beings, right? Him with like his regular jobs, and me with my content creation. Like, we became very different people. And then fundamentally, the way we grew up was also really different in terms of the way we saw material wealth, the way we saw a lot of things, actually. So basically, we had basic incompatibility, a discrepancy in the way we saw the world, like our worldview. Like, I'm very optimistic, and he was completely opposite. He was like a pessimistic realist. I think a lot of people are like that. I'm not saying that you guys are wrong. I'm just saying that if an optimist is going to live with a pessimist, it doesn't really work out very well, I don't think. But I never really looked at it until I had to look at it, right? So that was another thing that was bad, or like it wasn't working out for us. I didn't know until I saw it, right? And then finally, like, we had a very different way of looking at money, which was like actually one of the biggest reasons why everything kind of fell apart in the first place. I think it's quite normal for couples to start fighting because of money, because at some point money becomes like quite a real thing that you have to contend with, right, in life. Like, especially if you're not like born with a silver spoon, or like you don't have an inheritance and stuff, and money becomes something that you have to worry about. It became tougher and tougher to ignore the fact that we had very, very differing views on money, which also was exacerbated by the fact that with my line of work, I wasn't earning like a stable income, and it was kind of stressful for us because it made him feel like he had to work harder to supplement like the stuff that I'm not earning as I'm supposed to from his point of view, I guess. And it made me very stressed because I'm making him stressed and I know it. So I started thinking about creativity from the point of view of how do I earn more money? And then if you know anything about creativity and content creation, it is that if you start thinking from the point of view of wanting to earn money, you just might as well just quit and go work a job, because it's harder to create when your sole motivation is to try to find something to just give you the money and earn, and it would just kill your soul. If you're successful, good. If you're not, you're just killing your soul and being unsuccessful at it. That's what I feel anyways. So yeah, I tried it for a while. I tried to think about how I could make more money. So I started doing a few things that I wasn't really a big fan of doing, just to see if I could earn more money. But it turned out that I just did things that I didn't like, and then it didn't turn out to have results because I did things that I didn't like, so I didn't do them well enough to have them have results in a sense. It was really tiring and damning on my creativity. I'm a super creative person, so it became that I was just struggling in a lot of ways, trying to make our situation better, make him happy and everything, and then I kind of lost my way in a sense. So slowly throughout the years, like I lost it. I lost my grip on my own creative freedom while trying to maintain a life of wanting to be a creative person that is free and not employed. I'm sure I have highlighted a few things that kind of highlights the feelings I was going through while I was in that relationship for about half of it. Maybe it was like getting stronger and stronger all the time, but I never really knew. I never noticed that it was a thing. Like I just always thought that it was me being stressed and me having mental health issues. Like I literally thought I was just going through some depressive episode all the time. I never knew that it was because I was trying to force myself to be something that I wasn't, and it was slowly killing me from the inside until one day last year I have a lot of time on my hands because I actually fell sick. I actually fell sick so many times, like physically sick on top of being like mentally ill for most of the time that I was in a relationship. But yes, I was so sick and like I was just in bed, unable to do anything for like a few days last year. I had so much time on my hands that I started thinking about my relationship, and I was like, wow, I see things that I didn't want to see before. And then I realized that, you know what, I don't think this is going to work out. I wanted it so bad to work out because we had so much on our plate. We had so much into this relationship. Like the house was coming in just like a few years time and everything was going good on surface. Like I didn't even know how to bring it up to anyone or bring it up to him that I want to end the relationship. Like why is it not something that I wanted to work on? Like, isn't this something that we could work on? Like, I was wondering to myself, I was thinking, I was like, is there a way that we can work on this? Like, can I like bring this up to him and we can start working on it and stuff? Because most of the time, that's what people do, right? They realize that something's wrong and then they talk to their partners and then they work on it. I wanted to try to find like a resolution that I could get to, but ultimately, I realized that it was impossible to do that because we've reached a point where it's either we cut our losses or we continue down this path for a really long time. So it took me a while, it took me like a week or so to finally find the courage and the resolution to bring it up to my ex that we should end it because of all the said reasons. When I brought up the breakup, we actually had a really long talk about it. And yeah, of course, he really wanted to convince me to try to fix things. But by the time we had that conversation about the breakup, I was already very sure that it was not going to go anywhere. I wasn't about to waste another second when I've already realized that I've wasted quite a few years being stuck to continue being more stuck for a house and a relationship that I don't think I want anymore, because I realized that the person was actually limiting me. That sounds so bad, but we were just very incompatible and I never knew because we were so young when we got together. We were so young and green, and then we got together and then we thought that was all it is, but then it turned out that he was my biggest limiter, and it was so hard to tell someone that. I don't know if I actually expressed that to him at all at the end. Yeah, it was hard. It was hard. I didn't like doing what I was doing to him, but I had to do it for myself, and it was very hard to grapple with it for a long time afterwards, which is basically why I'm here talking about this right now. I really wanted to share my story because it's such a hard and difficult thing to say and to tell, because there were no definitives about anything when it came to the way I arrived at the whole decision to break up, to end that relationship that seemed so good on paper. It seemed like everything was doing fine. He was such a nice person. He took care of me so well, and he was caring and loving, and he did all he could to make sure that I was provided for. But actually that was also it was a problem in itself when it came to us thinking about money as well, because being provided for wasn't really something that I wanted in the relationship. But I mean, like, I appreciated the fact that he did it for me, you know what I mean? But it always felt a little bit like he provided for me with his, like, he, bear in mind, he does not have an inheritance too, so he was just earning his own money and he was struggling as well. So the providing for me felt a little bit like a slight towards my inability to support myself, which was untrue. I was still able to support myself, just not in his eyes, you know. So it was like, it actually kind of like rubbed me the wrong way the entire time. Like, I sound so much like a ungrateful person, but I promise you it's not. Like, I was really, really grateful about all of that. Like, he really, really tried to be the best partner that he could be. But the fact was, I realized that we were so fundamentally incompatible that we were both holding each other back, because like he was also trying his best to make it in the world the way he wanted to make it in the world, but at the same time he was so stressed out about trying to earn enough money for the two of us that he was stuck as well, and he was not reaching his full potential. Some people argued with me that I don't know what his full potential would be, or like what he needed in life, but I would argue back that I spent 5 years with this person. No one knew him better than I did at that point, and I could see very clearly at the end that both of us were holding each other back. And I was like, you know what, it's better if we just ended things. It's been hard to grapple with, it's been hard to explain to people. It was hard to explain to my parents as well. It was hard to explain to anyone because it was so gray. It was so gray. It was not gray in my head anymore at that point, but it was like a gray thing, because most people don't think about like compatibility, and most people think about trying and trying again and sticking to this person that you've decided to stick to through thick or thin. But we weren't married yet, so I felt like if we had been married, maybe I would have approached it a little bit differently, but we weren't. We didn't even have the house yet, and I decided to cut our losses short. So what happened to the house was we had to give it back, and then we had to we're still kind of going through it right now, but we just had to forfeit like the grants that the government gave us and stuff like that. So we just cut our losses, really. Like, we didn't sink too much money into it. So that was the story, and that's the whole reason why it's so hard to talk about this. But that's also the reason why I really, really want to talk about this, because I want the story to go out there, because I want people who might be in the situation that I was in to understand that you're not crazy. You should leave if something is telling you that something's wrong. I mean, of course, like, try to work it out first, but I didn't, because I worked it out in my head and I realized that it's either I leave or I just get stuck for a few more years, and a few more years is detrimental. I'm 30 years old. Essentially, I chose myself and I made a lot of people angry slash confused. Like, some of my friends never understood why I left, and some of my friends thought I would never do better, and some of my friends just, yeah, they just never understood. Actually, my parents, to this day, I don't think they understood why I did what I did. They just knew that they had no choice but to listen. It was kind of hard trying to convince my mom that I wasn't going crazy, and I don't know why my parents always think that I'm crashing out when I'm not. But yeah, so it was a tough few months, or maybe actually a full year, almost a few. Okay, it was a tough, I would say at least half a year of me dealing with the aftermath of choosing myself. It was a lot of like self-doubt as well, not gonna lie. It was a lot of like me thinking if I made the right decision, if I should go back, if I should crawl back and beg for forgiveness because I made a mistake and stuff. But the reality was, the moment it ended, I felt so free. I felt free. I felt not tied down anymore. I felt like the future was in my hands and felt like I could do anything I want. I don't know how I locked myself into a cage. It felt like a cage, actually, guys. Like, we had a routine and everything, but it basically was like a, oh my god, it sounds so bad, but it actually was just an incompatible person that I was with, and then everything just felt a little bit like it was unnatural and against my natural way of doing life, like my rhythms in life and stuff. It was just not giving me what I needed. I was in survival mode for a long time in a relationship, and then for the first time I felt like I was actually thriving. So every time I asked myself if I should crawl back and beg for forgiveness, I realized that I actually felt felt better at that point than I ever did in a relationship. And then I was like, okay, no, you still did the right choice. Whatever is happening now is still better than what was happening back then. I don't even know how to explain it, but it was like a sense of freedom because of how I was no longer tied down by a relationship that demanded way too much of me in a way that didn't vibe with my soul. Oh goodness, it just makes me sound so this is so hard to share because it just makes me sound like an ungrateful it just makes me sound like an ungrateful and selfish person that chose herself, which essentially that's what we're supposed to do, right? We're supposed to choose ourselves, right? Because it's our life, and I gave it so much thought that I feel like I should be allowed to do whatever I did. I gave that relationship 5 years of my life. I think that's more than enough trying, even if I didn't actually bring it up to the person first, because I didn't have enough insight to realize what was happening in a proper amount of time to start working on it. Like I feel like if I had that insight like a little bit earlier on in the relationship, like before I started dying off halfway through the relationship, I could have maybe brought it up with my ex and we could have figured something out, and maybe we would have still got along fine, and maybe we would have gone down a different trajectory, but that didn't happen. I didn't get the insight that I got until it was too late, because I just matured at that point last year rather than 3-ish years ago when I started crashing and burning. I don't even know if I'm making sense, guys. I feel like I am. It's a difficult topic to talk about, but I feel like more people should talk about this kind of stuff, like the gray in between stuff where your ex is not a true asshole, but neither is he like an angel or whatever. Like it's not black and white. And it's so difficult to weave a story with grays, because how do you give a definitive story? Because you can't have like a single opinion about anything. I had exes where they were completely bad and I could just tell you the story really, really easily and you will be like, oh yes, 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 you should have left that person. But then for this one, it's just gray. Everything's gray. Everyone will have an opinion because it is gray. Like some people will still tell me that I should have stayed and tried because it's 5 years already, and also because like it's not that big of a deal. You could probably like just figure it out instead of running away. Like I know all of the arguments, guys, but trust me, I really like figured out like that was the best case scenario, the most efficient way to start living my life and choose myself and also save both of us at the same time. We were both drowning. Like he wasn't doing any better, like I was saying. Like he really wasn't doing any better. He was struggling so hard as well. He was having his own mental breakdowns too because of all of the financial struggles and stuff like that because of me. Anyways, that's why I wanted to share, because I want anyone who this resonates with to know that you're not alone. If you've ever gone through something like that, I've gone through it before. If you have a friend that's going through something like this, maybe you can be a little bit more understanding. And if you yourself are in a situation like this, then I'm really hoping that it gives you the strength to know that you're not alone. Someone has done it already. I don't know. I feel like it's gonna help someone out there, because like, what do you do if the person you're with is perfect on paper, but then actually like in all of the ways that you cannot voice properly into words? That's where everything's wrong, because that was what was the case for me. Like everyone was like, this guy is so good to you, is like the best boyfriend you've ever had, he's so caring, he's so loving, he's loyal. Like he had all of the good stuff on paper, but the incompatibility underneath the surface, the thing that gels two people together, we had barely any together. We barely had anything that gelled us together compatibility wise. Nothing that really, really mattered. Worldview, mindsets, personalities, preferences, preferred lifestyles, preferred foods, everything. Like we were actually opposites in our personality and our everything, and we just made it work. And then at some point it just became like a distant friendship. Our relationship actually became like a distant friendship after a while. It was kind of bad. Like we had all the signs, but all of those signs we just passed off as an old couple relationship, because we see this in our parents sometimes, like just how our parents would just live their own lives and they're not that close, and we just kind of like passed it off as normal. But I don't believe that it was normal. Now I know for sure that it's not normal because I know better now. I've experienced better now, but that's a story for another day. Yeah, that's like basically what I wanted to yap about today. I'm sorry it got a little dark. I just was in a mood to share this one. It's still really, really messy, but I hope you got some sort of something out of it. It's definitely not my best story to tell. It's definitely heavy. It's definitely still muddy. I don't even know how to tell the story properly, but over time, maybe we will figure out a way to make it more palatable to people and more like maybe there will be like parts that I can go for. I don't know, man. This is the first official time that I'm actually sharing this story out here. Hopefully, I did it justice and wasn't too harsh on my ex because that wasn't the point. That was absolutely not the point. Yeah, I'd say like prioritize yourself, not to the point of selfishness, like know the difference between being selfish and knowing when your boundaries are being stepped on or like know when someone is limiting you. And it is a thing. It took me many years to figure that out, and I want people to figure it out faster than I have because I sometimes feel like I lost a lot of time because of how I just refused to see what was limiting me until it was like so late. I feel like also that everything happened in divine timing, so like I saw who was limiting me when I was meant to see who was limiting me and when. So maybe when it comes your turn to fight your battle of this nature, you'll be more ready, or like you feel like someone else has done it before, so you'll be less scared. Right? I was so scared. I I was making the wrong move all the time. I was so in doubt all the time, but then slowly it just made a lot of sense. Okay, this is all I have for you today in terms of yapping. I hope you guys like the two girlies that I made. I think they're really cute. Kind of ironic that I'm talking about breakup when I'm making a cat and dog pair. They're alibus. But they're cute though. Hopefully they're more compatible than I was with my ex. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching all the way to this point. If you have, like, comment, subscribe, tell me what you think. I'd love to hear, and I will see you guys in my next video. And yeah, take care guys.